All men are created equal. We have all heard this phrase, studied it, and read about it in almost every history book since elementary school. But as we look deeper into our history, we realize that this phrase doesn't always hold true. For centuries, men and women have been targeted for their looks, beliefs, and ways of life. We have seen this in the Civil Rights Movement when African Americans were fighting for their rights, and in the Holocaust where Jews and other minority groups were targeted negatively. The seemingly newest topic of civil rights is the gay rights movement. Although this fight began long ago, it is a constant debate every day. Seeing/reading about this movement has become a common occurrence. Whether you care about the movement or not, or whether you agree with gay rights or not, this has affected all of us, even if it's as simple as just passing a newsstand and seeing it on a headline. From a young age, I have seen a friend struggle to be gay in a straight world. As I remain close with my friend, I have done research on the topic and begun to learn his struggle and how this movement came about. In this speech, I will discuss the history of gay rights, the gay rights movement, how it affects our military, and the newest state to allow same-sex marriage, which is New York. To begin, I will discuss the history of the movement. Many of us believe that the gay rights movement is kind of a new thing, but really it's been going on for centuries. It is said that the civil rights movement is what inspired the gay community to fight for their rights, and they actually, a lot of times, homosexuals relate themselves with other minority groups, so when they saw other groups getting their rights, they thought it was their turn to be treated equal as well. According to History.com, the first anti-gay laws were seen in the 16th century, where homosexual behavior began seen as criminal. By 1870, laws were made that made same-sex marriage illegal, so anyone attempting to marry someone of the same sex was sent to jail and their rights were taken from them. Before the 20th century, a small number of policies and few gay rights groups were around that affected the movement. And the movement didn't attract the public eye until 1969 with the Stonewall riots. According to History.com, the Stonewall riots Stonewall was a gay bar, and when police went in to try and shut it down, they were greeted by about 400 people outside of the bar who were waiting to violently riot against the act of discrimination. Although this didn't shut down the bar, it did create a whole new community of gay rights activists, but with these activists also came anti-gay protesters. A lot of people believe that the purpose of life is to create children, and since same-sex couples can't technically do this, they're often seen as opposing the Bible, and their lifestyle is looked at as wrong and unjust. The AIDS epidemic also came around during this time, and as a lot of us know, the gay community was largely blamed for this, so hate for the community greatly increased. But as time went on, things did happen in favor of the gay community. In 1993, court sided with same-sex couples in Hawaii, which was followed by California allowing domestic partnerships. A domestic partnership is not a marriage, but it does give some of the same rights that a married couple would have. And then in 2004, Massachusetts became the first state to legalize same-sex marriage, which is still seen as the biggest step in the gay rights movement. Next, I'm going to discuss gay rights and its connection to our military. This has been one of the biggest issues in this movement. Time magazine tells us that World War II was the first war to ban homosexuals from entering the military. Officials would actually go in and check for feminine qualities in men, and if they were suspected even a little to have this quality, they could be dismissed without question. According to the Times, by the end of World War II, about 4,000 people had been dismissed from the military for this reason. Outright discrimination of homosexuals in the military went on without dispute until Clinton came into office and passed the Don't Ask, Don't Tell. This basically says that an official can't outwardly ask somebody their sexual identity, but if they do find out in a different way, they can still ban them or dismiss them from the military. According to Time magazine, since 1994 and Don't Ask, Don't Tell came into effect, about 12,000 people have been dismissed because they were suspected to be gay or outwardly were admitting they were. Today, about 25 countries allow gays in the military freely. Some examples of these are Canada, Israel, and Russia. Finally, I will talk about the newest addition to the gay rights movement, and this is New York. On June 17th, New York representatives came together and voted in favor of a same-sex bill. Along with 5 other states, New York will allow marriage license to anyone, no matter their sexual identity. According to the New York Times, the bill was approved 33 to 29. 4 Republicans joined with all but 1 Democrat to support the bill. Once the final decision was announced, there was mixed emotions. People who agreed with the bill went to the courthouses to celebrate, and they even went to Stonewall, which is where the famous riots began, to celebrate there as well. Marriage proposals were being thrown out, and the overall community morale was high and positive. But on the other side, officials against the bill also weren't afraid to speak out. According to CBS News, Ruben Diaz, who was the one Democrat to vote no, argued that the law was a bad decision on all fronts. Agreeing with him were many Catholic bishops in New York that are afraid that this new bill will change the way people view marriage, and other people have also come up and openly agreed with these statements. Although this seems like a small step, the gay community hopes that it will be a big change for their future. So in conclusion, this movement has been going on for centuries, and we still see it in headlines every single day. Today I've discussed the history of the movement, how it came to be, and some changes, how the military is connected to the gay rights movement, and the 6th state, New York, allowing same-sex marriages. Our founding fathers wrote that all men are created equal, and maybe one day we will see this phrase hold true.